My name is Sultan Shakir, and I'm a regional field director for the Human Rights Campaign. So I basically work with our members to elect fair-minded candidates from New York down to South Carolina, and also work to push legislation that supports the LGBT community, such as domestic partnership benefits, pushing for anti-discrimination laws and things like that. Well, my definition of grassroots actually came from my old company, which is Grassroots Solutions, and their definition is that people matter. And I think that's really what grassroots means, is that you really start down, people use the word bottom, but for lack of a better word, at the bottom where the people are, where people live, and that's where you work up. It's not a top-down model, it's really a bottom-up model. Well, I think it's so important in the progressive movement because the progressive movement as a whole doesn't work top down. I mean, when there's so many different organizations that all have different goals and different values, it's really hard to say, this is the agenda that we're pushing this year. So you have to take different agendas and all bring them together. And so you have to start at the bottom and say, what is the agenda of this organization? What is the agenda of that organization? And even inside organizations, like an organization like HRC has lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, and even as individuals, they're different agendas. So you really have to start with what are the things going on with those individuals, start there on that level, and figure out how you build a model around that. Well, direct voter contact is so important when it comes to having an effective campaign because all campaigns are about connecting with voters. I mean, there's really nothing else you're trying to do with mail, with TV, with radio, with door knocking, with grassroots campaigning other than connecting with voters. And the grassroots model is the most effective way to do that. Actually talking to somebody where they live, like at their door, or even on their college campus or something like that, where they hang out, like at school or at the mall or something like that, is the most effective way to engage somebody. I mean, just sending a piece of mail or putting up a TV ad is effective with some things, but actually going and having that one-on-one communication with somebody is far more effective than things like TV or mail for actual communication of a campaign's message. Sure, I think the first thing that volunteers do, and one of the most important things that they do, is really validate the campaign. I mean, having somebody who comes out and knocks on a door, makes a phone call, and says, you know what, I'm giving up my free time to talk to you about this, really shows to that voter that that person really cares, and that campaign is really run and really organized by people that really care. So validating is one of the most important things. And the next thing is that campaigns can't do everything that they want to do just with the cash that they have on hand. So they need volunteers, they need bodies, they need people's, they need their own resources to actually get out the message of the campaign. So the volunteers actually become the messengers for that campaign, whether it's in their neighborhood, whether it's at their PTA meeting, whether it's at a soccer meet. Those volunteers are really taking that core message that the campaign has and disseminating it out to voters. Well, if it's your first time volunteering and you're trying to jump into a race, the first thing is definitely be flexible. Because you can always assume what's going to happen. You can always talk to the campaign and they can lay out their campaign plan. But campaigns are really two-way streets. I mean, you have your opponent coming out with their message. You have national and local politics coming out with messages. You have the campaign trying to put out its own message. So there's so many different dynamics going on that you really have to be flexible and say, okay, this is the plan that we're ideally going to put out there and ideally going to put forward. But there's so many other things that are going to play into whether or not this is actually the final plan come election day. I think as an organizer, your first question is, how does this campaign relate to people? And you can break those people up if you want. I mean, if you're running a campaign and working for a candidate, the first question you might want to ask is, how does this candidate relate to seniors? How does this candidate relate to youth? How does this candidate relate to minority communities? And you're figuring out what the message is going to be and how to tailor that message to those different communities. Because different communities have different values, different goals, different things that they want in their day-to-day life. And that also varies in geographic neighborhoods. I mean, there might be one neighborhood that's really concerned about a school, and you know that your candidate was a PTA president or was a teacher or something like that. That's a message that's really going to connect with that community. So you're looking for those connections that your campaign or your candidate has between those different communities. Well, the most important thing when you're engaging with voter contact is to know that the issues that are going to get somebody to vote are the issues that matter to that person, not so much the issues that matter to you. And I think a lot of people go and volunteer because there's something that motivated them to volunteer. I mean, they're really pissed off about the war, they're really upset about gas prices, they're really concerned about a bill that the incumbent senator or congressperson or whomever voted for or voted against. The thing to keep in mind is that those might not be the reasons that the person you're talking to is going to be motivated to vote. So what you're going to try to do is find out what motivates that person. And the easiest way is just to ask them. A lot of great campaigns start off by saying, you know, this is the candidate I'm working for, and he or she wants to run on the issues that really matter to the people in the community. What are some things that matter to you? So just start the conversation off by letting the person know that you're out here to talk about things that matter to them, not so much about things that matter to you. Well, I think one of the best models that has come out in the past 2 years have been some of the models that have come out around youth organizing. And there was a great delegate that was running in Virginia, and he did a lot of really good youth organizing because he made it fun. And so people would come to his house for parties, and to get into the party, you either had a certain number of door knocks signed off on your walk list, or you gave $50. So people said, okay, I can either give $50 or I can go and talk to my neighbors and actually talk about this candidate and get the word out. And that's what a lot of people did. So after the canvass, people would come to the party, and it really became a social outlet for people. And it continued, and it really grew into to become this really large youth model where even my roommate, who's one of the laziest people I know, actually went out and did some canvassing so he could go to this party because he knew there were a lot of really young, cool people there. So it became a great model of organizing. So he found out what would get people motivated in his campaign and how he can make that enjoyable for them. Sure. Well, I think the most important thing with voter outreach is the message and finding a message that relates to that voter. Now, peer-to-peer outreach is usually more effective because that peer knows what the message is probably going to be that relates to the other peer. I mean, a student in a college campus knows what issues the other student in the college campus, what those students are talking about. A senior probably knows what other things other seniors are concerned about. And the same holds true with other communities. So that's why I think peer-to-peer is the most effective in a lot of cases, because that individual knows the things that are on the hearts and minds of other people that that person is talking to. Well, one of the most important things there is to know the history. When I think a lot of organizers and younger organizers go into a community that's been underserved by the political process and think that, you know what, the community is going to be really excited because I'm here. They've never gotten, contact from these campaigns in the past, and now that I'm coming, they're going to be really excited and welcome me with open arms. You've got to understand that a lot of times, if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of resentment first, and you've got to figure out how to get past that. And the easiest way to get past that is to acknowledge it. I mean, let people know that, when you're coming and they're presenting that the resentment is justified. So if somebody comes and says, you know what, I don't want to talk to you, your campaign has never come around and talked to my community before, you have to acknowledge that because it's probably true and say, you know what, that's true, have some type of explanation for it, and you have to work with the campaign to figure out what that is, but you have to justify it and find some way to get past that. I think in terms of long-term organizational strength, leadership development is one of the key pieces that it's really hard to focus on, but really needs to be focused on. I mean, just like political parties have a great leadership structure, a city council person runs for state senate, a state senator runs for governor, a governor runs for president, organizations need the same type of building blocks for their organizers and for their leadership structure as well. So you need a way for a volunteer to move up and have more responsibility. And a lot of times the question is, how do I find out which volunteer would be good for that responsibility? And a lot of times it's just trying that person out. I mean, you can't look at somebody and say, you know what, they're going to be a good leader, but you can give that person the responsibility of running a phone bank next to somebody else who's run that phone bank before, so you can find out how do I need to train this person, because people aren't going to be great leaders off the bat. I mean, you're going to have to find out, where is this person stumbling, what is this person's natural strengths, what are this person's natural weaknesses, so you can actually build that person into the leader you need him or her to be. I think one thing that I've learned when it comes to leadership is that, especially in the progressive movement, leaders have to be ready to lead. They definitely have to be ready to say, you know what, this is the plan and this is the direction we're going. But in the progressive movement, and really in any movement, they should also be ready to step back and listen, because it's great to be running in a direction, but if there's nobody coming with you, then you're not really leading anybody. So I think it's really, really important for leaders to have the direction they're going, but also have the communication and the input from the other people around them in order to make the correct decisions.